Tomás Puig, founder and CEO of Alembic, and Curtis Sparrer, principal of Bospar PR, talk to the host, Doug Simon, on PR's Top Pros Talk.
What's a common myth that communicators really need to understand about AI?
Well, if we're just talking about generative AI, I would say that being able to repeat knowledge on a subject is not the same as actually being able to have an intellectual conversation on that subject.
That's great. And Curtis, what's your top take?
AI is probably in the puberty stage right now, and it's not yet developed in such a way where I trust it as an adult for certain tasks. In terms of press release writing, no, AI really will just produce milquetoast content. But if you need a document like how should I say, like a pricing document for advertising or something like that, a business continuity document, oh, it's fabulous.
Tomás, can you be specific about the service you're providing for context for our viewers?
Yeah, we work with Fortune 500 and Global 2000 companies, CMOs, CEOs, and CROs to prove if they put $1 into marketing, do they get $1 out? And we use causal inference and AI to do that.
Curtis, when you have a client like this, how do you approach getting started and assessing what's going to be effective? Obviously, AI is such a hot topic across multiple media outlets.
The thing that I find exciting about what Tomás is doing is that you've heard the old Greek, thing, Doctor, heal thyself. Tomás was actually able to use his own tools to find out how his media placements that we got were able to help his company. And to me, I think that's what's really exciting for anyone who's thinking, hey, how does a PR program work in terms of proving value? And what value is that? Now, Tomás, I'm just going to tee that up for you. In terms of what happened, could you kind of give us some backstory there?
Many years now, I jokingly say, before I founded the company, I was a recovering CMO for private equity. And what I've always said is that when you need to get net new consideration, like an entire new audience, or you're just breaking into something, nothing is more effective than earned media on a price per pound basis for smaller companies. Two classic examples. Many years ago, when we were just starting out, we were a very theoretical company. We still are to an extent, but we did a piece in VentureBeat of all places. And that's where Jensen Huang, before he was big, saw us. And actually, that's how we ended up with NVIDIA as a customer, was through an actual placement in a PR piece. Now, he's gone on to do incredible things and be one of the biggest companies in the world, obviously. But the power to actually reach an audience that would normally never pick up the phone or never actually talk to you is actually massive on the PR side. Another way we see it is with the new launches we just did, where we finally, we were in kind of like in a very quiet mode for a long time. When we finally actually started announcing and everything, we did a mixture of press, analyst relations, everything you would normally think of on that side. Very, very little paid. And we ended up with over 15% of the Fortune 500 in our funnel. That type of stuff can be incredibly effective if you mix the exact right message with the exact right medium, with the exact right publication. I think inherently people seek validation, right? And really want to understand that you're for their exact use case, their exact people. Whereas every other form of advertising, they honestly think it's generic usually.
Interesting. And Curtis, we've obviously been a real proponent of the value of earned media as our specialties and broadcast on that. Do you see the value of earned media going up? We're seeing some of that because sometimes it can be challenging to earn media. You have to work harder and smarter to get the better story. So it's standing out more from all the inflow of content that people have to deal with.
As the AI revolution continues, earned media is going to be even more and more important because there's just going to be so much content out there that how do you tell what's human generated versus not? And how do you tell if this is something that has a real person behind it or a very smart artificial intelligence bot? And I think that what's going to happen is AI is going to definitely help humans get better at creating content, but nothing is going to beat the human interaction and perspective when it comes to creating stories that matter. And that way, I think, from a PR point of view, just earned media is going to become that much more important for the mix.
Yeah, and are you seeing media trying to get more comfortable with AI founders? And It's interesting because there was so much about ChatGPT when they sort of burst on and made AI the hot new thing. But there have been a lot of things, to your point, Tomas, about what you were doing that were already in play. And we've worked with other companies that have, promoted how they're using AI to do design and save energy and computer networks. There are all these things that are going on. What are ways the press can be more collaborative with the AI founders?
Press know that AI is the hot ticket these days. And so there is definitely a sense of understanding what each founder is bringing to the AI puzzle. I would say that when we started with generative AI a bit ago, we had an actual panel the San Francisco Press Club did about how AI would impact journalism. And even then, journalists were not worried that it would replace their jobs, even though there had been instances where that had been out there. And so nowadays, the question is more, well, how are you taking this technology and applying it to something that's truly meaningful? Are you AI that's solving a real problem, or is it just bolt-on AI for the sake of it?
Yeah. And Tomas, what's your take on that? Have you been able to make connections as a founder of an AI company? I don't know if you want to become the next Elon Musk, perhaps in, bank account and impact of that. But what's your take on that?
If you were to ask what my founder that I really love is, I'd say the original HP when Hewlett and Packard were actually there, that would be more of what I would want to be, right? But if you're thinking about AI and all this stuff in general, I would say that what you're going to end up with is that it is an incredibly technical subject, right? Not all AI is the same. A lot of it, like they said, can be skinned. It is very, very easy to pull the wool over somebody's eyes. And very, very few of the deployments actually have real repeatable use cases outside of consumer. And so I think what happens is that you are looking at a gold rush. There is gold there, right? There's also a lot of fool's gold, right? And a lot of people who are coming into the market. I mean, we see this in cycles always. And I think that the really hard part is there are so few people in the world who actually know this stuff that they can use as third-party experts. And a lot of the people providing that advice in the AI world, some of them can be characters, to say the least, right? I jokingly say the entire arguments between Blade Runner and Star Trek, right? Are you going to end up with one of the two? Like it feels like every conversation comes down to that.
I was going to say, can AI settle that one? That would be a really good use if you can make that happen.
There's lots of people who have analysis paralysis that really hope AI would solve all of it. But I don't think being a human is going to be any easier over the next period of time than it ever was.
It might even be harder just because there's all this information and you need even more skill set to understand what information is valuable and what isn't. I mean, we're seeing that across everything in the country with the whole political divide that people are having different facts that they work with. So, Curtis, in your role as a communications advisor and executor of campaigns, can you solve that? And what should agencies be doing, thinking about as best practice? It's easy to say, oh, great, I have an intern who worked on AI in college. We're now opening an AI division at DS Simon Media, press release to follow. But what can you really do to make a difference for your clients and the people who work at your organization?
In a way, I'm in a weird place where people already have their hands deeply enmeshed in all things AI at Bospar. And so there's a bit of understanding the space in a way that we're not all having to be all like, what is this weird thing? I would say that there's a couple of guardrails that we as a creative agency are having these days. And partly it's to make sure that when we're advising our clients and also talking to our influencer and media buddies, that we're doing it with the best foot forward, if you will. I think that what we want to do when we do that is be pretty clear about it, at least in these early ages. One of my friends who works at VentureBeat was saying, hey, I use Clippy or Grammar Check for some of what my content, do I need to disclose then that I'm doing that here? And we all agreed, no, that didn't make sense. But when we are talking about content nowadays, where we have to worry about all the facts being correct, we are always having to, be very clear. Hey, we used AI for this. let's take a look at this. And we're telling our clients to do that as well, because the biggest problem really isn't from us as Bospar, putting out content or pitching or anything like that. It's when our client gives us something, and sometimes we have to do that uncomfortable talk like, did you do this, or was it an AI?
Yeah. Do you own the rights to it? Is a key question.
Absolutely. And, is everything there absolutely sourced and truthful? Because that's the biggest problem AI has, is its truthfulness, which I think growing up with Star Trek, I was always under the belief that computers couldn't lie. And now, oh my God, it's like Pinocchio all over again.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Any final thoughts for you? Start with you, Tomás.
That's what's really interesting about this space. The term we use in AI and technical world for what Curtis is talking about, the hallucinations that occur, is we call it extrapolation. When you try to predict something that you don't know yet, what ends up happening is people say that, hey, all LLMs are stochastic parrots, right? They can only do semantic similarity. And so sometimes it can feel like when you ask it for travel plans or when you ask it for a trip, what's done is it's gone to the 100 best travel bloggers in the world and it's going to repeat back their plans. And those are going to sound amazing. If you ask it for a little bit of difference, it'll cross-reference other things. One of the funny things about this, though, is it doesn't actually reason and think, right? And so when you actually ask it to, as we say, extrapolate, everything falls to the wayside. And being able to teach people the difference between those two things is it feels so smart, right? It feels smart. It's like, you ever see Good Will Hunting, Douglas?
I did.
Remember the guy in the bar who's talking, and it's like the grad student who knows everything on the face of the earth that Will Hunting's like, have you ever had an original thought in your entire life?
Yeah.
The LLM is the grad student. And so when you're working with these type of things, you really have to think about it and be like, that's really hard to train, right? Because people think it sounds so truthful that they assume all facts in it are exact. And that's where what Curtis is saying, like it's not, but that requires a deep sophistication on how this stuff works.
Yeah, and to wrap up, I can assure my audience that everything said here was exact. So, gentlemen, thank you for being part of the show. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.